taken from your home planet by the conquering overlords known as the Yugai. You have been forced to live on a crowded refugee world. Like many others, you could have conformed, given up. Instead, you've chosen to recruit others to your side, make use of the resources around you, and fight back to reclaim your worth. But can you do it faster than the other ambition-hungry gangs fighting over the same scraps as you? In City of Remnants, you're gonna find out. Hi, my name is Rodney Smith, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to play this 2 to 4 player game by Plaid Hat Games. To start, we're going to need to set up our playing area, and that begins by laying out the two-sided player board. One side, showing the yellow and black squares, is for a 3-player game, and the other is for playing a 2 or 4 player game. In this video, we're going to set up for a 2-player game, and both players will sit across from one another, just like you and I are right now. Looking at the game board, you can see a cityscape, and it's a grid made up of red, blue, and green squares. But we'll talk more about those later. Now each player is going to need to choose one of the 4 gangs that come with the game. Each gang has its own starter deck of 10 cards, which you can tell apart by the gang colors and the starter card text shown on them here. Now players can either randomly assign the gangs to different players, or each player could roll a die and the highest result could pick first. I've chosen here a yellow gang and a red gang for our 2 players. Once you have your gang deck, just give it a quick shuffle and then keep it close by. You're also going to need to collect one of the matching playmats for the gang color of your choice, so I'll put the yellow one on this side and we'll give the red one here to the other player. Then place a turn tracker on the 0 space and the influence tracker token on the 4 space. Your gang's influence, as shown on the player mat, is going to affect many things over the course of the game, including how many cards each player starts with. Since each player has 4 influence, that means you can draw 4 cards to form your opening hand. Then collect the figures matching your gang leader's color, and place 7 of them on the gang member pool of your player mat. These represent the members actively in your gang, but not yet on the board. Put the rest of the figures aside for use later. Aside from the starting gang member cards, there are also several neutral gang member cards with a dark grayish border. Shuffle these well, place them face down, and then deal 4 cards face up from the top of the pile. Then find the cards with the black market indicator on them. Shuffle and place them face down, dealing 4 of these face up as well. These are the development cards. Sort them into red, blue, and green decks. Then shuffle and randomly draw 3 from each, laying them out like so. This will provide you with 9 random development properties that players can build during the game. The rest of the cards can be discarded to the box. Each card has a color and symbol that matches one or more of the development tiles that come with the game. Place these tiles with their matching card. These purple tokens are the money of the game, known as Alien Refugee Credits, or ARCs for short. And each player starts with a total value of 2,000. The first digit of each denomination is emphasized to make them easy to count. Place the remaining ARCs in a pile on the table. These are known as the product tokens and should be placed in a pile nearby as well. Another pile should be made for the Renown tokens. The total of the numbers marked on them comes to 200 points. These are the cards that represent the movements of the evil YCU, the Yugai control units. Think of them as intergalactic overlord enforcers. Shuffle this deck and place it face down, with the YCU alert card nearby for easy reference. Then take all of the white tokens, which represent the YCU forces, and shuffle them into the cloth bag provided with the game. The game comes with several special dice that are used for combat, but amongst those you'll also find a regular 6-sided die. Each player should roll this once, re-rolling any ties, and whoever has the highest value, that person will collect the first player token, which means they get to start the game. Speaking of which, the setup is done, and now we can start learning how to play. Now before we jump into the gameplay, you may be wondering, how do I actually win? Well, over the course of the game, you're going to be collecting these Renown tokens. At the end of the round, when the last Renown token is taken from this pile, All of the players are going to be adding up the number of renown points they've collected, and whoever has the most, that player will be declared the winner. Now, how do you go about collecting those? Well, the game is played in a series of rounds, and each round is broken into 4 phases that have to be completed in order. So let's take a moment right now. We're going to go over those 4 phases and explain exactly what you get to do. The reset phase begins every round, except the first one. So we'll wait until we explain the other phases first, and then we'll come back to this one afterwards. The player with the first player token gets to choose one of the 6 available actions to take. Once they've completed that action, they're then going to move their turn tracker 1 space forward. And then the player to the left will choose an action, advance their turn tracker 1 space, and so on. Once all players' turn trackers are on the 4th space, the player phase is over. So let's look at the 6 available actions you can choose from on your turn. From this action, you can try to recruit a new gang member to your crew from the 4 available face-up cards we placed during the setup. To start this action, you declare which of the face-up cards you wish to recruit. So let's say I declared an intention to recruit this card here. Play would then pass to the first player on my left, who has available actions left on their turn tracker and some arcs to spend. That player could either choose to pass and not bid, or place the initial opening bid. In other words, what would they be willing to spend to recruit this gang member instead of letting me have it? Play would then pass to their left, and then that player could either pass or attempt to outbid the last bid. And these bids will go around the table until everyone has passed except for one player. That player must then spend those arcs, putting them back into the pool, and then they would get to take that gang member card and put it into their hand. Now, if I was to express intention to recruit a gang member and everyone around the table passed instead of placing bids, I would then get that gang member for free and add that card to my hand. But think about this. What it means is that during my turn, when I'm trying to have a recruit action, someone else at the table could outbid me and end up getting a recruit member for themselves. When that happens, like I said, they take the card, but then they also have to advance their turn tracker 1 space. This will give them 1 less action during the round. Now, if the player who originally proposed the recruit action is not able to successfully outbid the other players and recruit someone, they will then get to attempt again to recruit one of the other face-up gang member cards. And you'll keep doing this until eventually that original player gets to recruit a gang member. Now, if you go to recruit someone and there's no face-up cards in that area of the table, draw the top card off of the recruit deck, and then you'll be bidding on that card instead. After a successful bid, the winning bidder places the gang member card directly into their hand and adds any unused figure of his color to his gang member pool. Although the figures have different designs, they are all equal and are not meant to be matched to specific cards. Take any figure you choose when adding it to your pool. This action allows the player to pick one of the face-up cards in the black market, pay its arc cost, and then add that card to their hand. If there are no more face-up black market cards on the table, then you will not be able to purchase one using a buy action. That said, you can always spend 3,000 arcs to purchase 1 renown point, and you can do that a number of times during a single buy action equal to your influence. So since I currently have 4 influence, I could use a buy action to both pick up a face-up black market card and purchase up to 4 renown points at a cost of 3,000 arcs each. This action is really made up of 2 steps. First producing, and then developing. But it's probably going to make the most sense to you if I start by explaining how you develop. And you do this by purchasing one of the tiles located here, and then placing it on one or more of the spaces on the game board. Now, to determine the cost of the tile, you look at its matching card, and the cost is located right here. Once paid for, the tile may then be placed anywhere on the game board, with the following restrictions. It may not overlap another tile, and it must be played on a space that matches its color restrictions, shown here. For example, this tile may be placed on either a blue or red space, whereas this tile may only be placed on a green space. If there are already figures on a location that you would like to place a tile to, just pick them up and place the tile underneath of them. Tiles are not considered controlled by any player until only one player has their figures on that tile. And it doesn't matter who actually paid for the tile to be placed on the board. For example, this tile that was originally placed by the red gang is considered contested because there are now two different players' figures on it. Whereas this tile, placed earlier in the game by the yellow gang, is now fully controlled by the red gang. So that's the development step of this action. But there's also that production step. And this is what allows you to take advantage of any produced developed special abilities listed on the cards associated with the development tiles that you control. For example, if we controlled the back alley games tile, then when performing a production development action, we would get to roll a die. And on a result of 4 or higher, we would automatically gain 3,000 arcs. In the case of the junkyard development, when performing a production develop action, you instead place 2 product tokens on the tile. It says here a junkyard product sells for 5,000 arcs each. Now selling is a totally separate action that we're just about to talk about, but keep in mind for now that when you do a production develop action, first do the producing. That's again the abilities that are written on these cards, and then you can develop new tiles. And this ensures that no new tiles added during that particular action are going to produce anything that turn. During this action, I may sell product tokens located on development tiles that I control. Now, the maximum number of product tokens I can sell is limited by my current influence. So I have an influence right now of 4. I may sell up to 4 product tokens. When I sell them, I then return them to the product token pool, and I collect arcs equal to their sale value, which is located on the development card associated with the development tile that I was selling from. With this action, I may discard as many cards as I want from my hand, adding it to my discard pile. I then take my total discard pile, shuffle it up, and then place it at the bottom of my current draw pile. Then I may draw a number of cards to bring my total hand size up to my current influence. So right now I have 2 cards, my influence is 4, that means I can draw and add 2 more cards to my hand. With this action, you can move a number of your figures equal to your influence up to 3 spaces each. So at the beginning of the game when I have 4 influence, I can move up to a total of 4 of my figures 3 spaces each. Now if you want to get your gang members from your pool onto the board, you're going to have to spend their first movement space to take them from the pool and then place them on your entry space. This is the space closest to you marked with white crosshairs. You may then spend the remaining 2 movement for that figure how you want, keeping in mind the following restrictions that apply to all movement. First, you must complete all movement with 1 figure before you move on to the next figure. Second, you may not move diagonally. And finally, you may not end on a space that already has 2 of your own figures on it. However, you can move on to a space that contains another player's figures, even if they already have 2 figures there. When this happens, movement with that figure immediately ends, causing the entered space to become contested. You may now continue moving any of your other eligible figures for that action, keeping in mind that only 1 space may become contested during a move action. You may, however, move up to 2 of your figures into a space with your opponent's figures. Once all movement is complete, a battle will immediately ensue on a contested space. So let's explain how a battle works. The attacker, now this is the person who is taking the move action and then created a contested space, may play a number of cards equal to their influence. So currently my influence is 4. I can play 4 cards, and these cards have to go face down in front of me. And they can come from either my hand or my draw pile. So that's right, it means I could play 2 cards that I know of for sure, face down in front of me, and then blindly draw 2 cards without looking at them and place those face down in front of me as well. Now keep in mind, you never have to play all of the cards that you could. So I could play 4 cards if I wanted to, but I could also play just 1 card or no cards at all. And the reason to do that might be because you want to hang on to the cards you have for a later battle, maybe for another turn that you want to take during this round. Once your cards are laid face down in front of you as the attacker, now the defender is going to do the exact same thing, playing a number of cards equal to their influence in front of them. Once that's done, the attacker is then going to reveal their cards. Any cards that are revealed may contribute to your attack total, Simply look for a numbered value on the left side of the card that matches your gang color. This is the attack strength that the card will provide for you while fighting for your gang. As you can see, some gang members will actually fight better under another player's control, something to keep in mind during a recruit action. Gang member cards also have abilities, and if that ability begins with the keyword battle, then that effect may be used now. Any other abilities on the card have no effect at this time. Once the attacker has revealed their cards, it's time for the defender to do the same. So now players have a pretty good sense of how the battle's going, but it's not over yet, because now each player can roll a battle die. One die for each figure that they have in the contested space and in adjacent spaces, not including diagonally. And these dice have either values of 0, 1, 2, or 3 on their sides. Once you've rolled all your dice, you then add that to the cards revealed to give you your total battle value. So in this example, the yellow gang had 2 figures in the contested space, one in one adjacent space and one gang member in another adjacent space, for a total of 4 figures, which means they could roll a total of 4 dice. And they didn't do so well, but they did manage to roll 4 additional battle points. The defender had 2 figures in the contested space and none to support them in any of the adjacent spaces, so they only got to roll 2 dice, but rolled pretty good. They had a total battle value added here of 5. The attacker must have a higher battle value to win, which means if they don't, the defender wins that battle. Also keep in mind, anytime figures are fighting on a contested space, if that space had a development tile that would normally give you special abilities, those special abilities are inactive as long as that space is contested. The player who lost the battle must remove 1 figure from the contested space, putting it in their pile of unrecruited figures. The loser must also remove from the game 1 of the gang member cards played in that battle. If the loser played no cards during the battle, then they'll have to remove a gang member card from their discard pile. If they don't have one there, then they'll have to go through their draw pile as a last resort and find one of the gang members there and remove that card from the game. Keep in mind, any time that you remove cards from a game, you have to show all of the players first. Also, not all of the cards in your deck are actually gang member cards. Your starter deck also has some ability cards. You may also have picked up some cards from the black market. Those ones cannot be removed from the game in place of gang member cards. If after a battle, a space is still contested, a new round of battle will begin with the remaining figures on the space. Once a space contains only one player's figures, the battle is over. In addition to taking an action during your turn, you may also at any point play as many cards as you want from your hand. This means that sometimes you'll be playing gang member cards outside of battle to instead trigger their special abilities. Remember though, if an ability has the keyword battle at the start, it may only be triggered when used during a battle. For example, if I play this gang member, the Disciple, outside of a battle but just during my turn, it will enable me to draw 2 cards. After playing and resolving a card for its special ability, place it in your discard pile. Now, after all of the players at the table have taken their 4 available actions for that round, it's time to leave the player phase and move on to the Yugai patrol phase. At the beginning of any Yugai patrol phase, remove any of the YCU tokens currently on the board. Now, if this is your first round of play, there won't be any there yet, but there probably will be in future rounds. YCU stands for Yugai Control Units. These are the enforcers sent out by your galactic overlords to keep young upstarts like yourselves in line. After removing any of those tokens from the board, then you're going to draw 2 of the YCU coordinate cards. These cards are drawn by the first player and immediately revealed. They will show the coordinates where YCU will appear on the game board. Pick a coordinate on the card and then draw a YCU token from the bag, placing it on that coordinate. Then pick the next coordinate, draw a new token, and continue doing so until all the coordinates from both cards are filled. This may result in more than one YCU token on the same location. Also note that these cards have 2 different sets of locations for these tokens, based on the number of players at the table. For a 2-player game, we can see that we use the orange coordinates. After all of the tokens are placed, if any are located in a space with a player's figures, a battle ensues. If more than one player has YCU tokens in their spaces, Then resolve the battles in turn order, starting with the first player. If a single player has more than one location with YCU tokens engaged with their figures, they may decide the order in which to resolve the battles. Battling a Yugai control unit is very similar to fighting another player. To begin, you may play a number of cards equal to your influence from either your hand or in combination with your draw pile if you choose. Then you roll a number of battle dice equal to the units that you have in the contested space and in the adjacent spaces. The main difference here is that you know your opponent's battle value before the fight begins because it's marked on the YCU tokens. Also, you either need to equal or exceed the battle value in order to win. But things do get a little trickier when there's more than one YCU token in the contested space. In that case, you pick which YCU unit to battle, but its attack value is boosted by the value of the other YCU in the same space. So if we chose to attack the YCU unit with a battle value of 9, it would be boosted by the 5, giving it a total battle value of 14. If you succeed in defeating the YCU unit, its token is removed, and now you must take on the remaining token. After defeating a Yugai control unit, remove its token from the board, place it back in the cloth bag. Then take the 6-sided die and give it a roll, and refer to the YCU alert card. Based on what you roll, you may have a good result or a bad result. If you lose to a Yugai control unit, remove one of your figures from that contested space and remove a card as you would do when losing to another player. However, you're not forced to fight Yugai control units. You can choose to bribe them instead. Simply pay the number of arcs as shown on the YCU token to the bank and return the YCU token to the bag. After bribing, you do not roll the die or consult the YCU alert card. This is the final phase of the round, and it's where renown points are awarded to players based on where they're located on the game board. If you have figures on a development tile, you will receive a number of renown points as indicated on the tile here. If you are located on one of the game board spaces that awards renown points, you'll be able to collect those as well. It's also possible to have a development tile on top of a space that would normally reward renown points. If you have figures there, you'll collect the points for both the space and the tile. If you're owed renown points, the player to your right will count them out and provide them to you. You may then, if you choose, place them face down in front of you to conceal how many points you have from your opponents. Beginning in the second round and every round thereafter, the players will conduct a reset phase. This is very similar to the refresh action you can take during the player phase. To start, each player can discard as many cards as they want from their hand. Now keep in mind, there is no maximum hand size, so you can keep all the cards you have if you want. I'm going to discard 3 of them because I'd like to get a better hand. So I'm going to then take my discard pile, shuffle all of the cards in it, and place it at the bottom of my draw pile. Then players can draw a number of cards so that the cards in their hand matches their current influence. So I have 4 cards in hand and I have an influence of 4. Now each of the players will collect 2,000 arcs, and the player with the first player token will pass that to the player on his or her left. Finally, any remaining face-up black market cards are discarded and 4 new ones are placed face-up. The same is done for any remaining gang members that were not recruited during the last round, and they are also replaced by 4 new face-up gang members. Now, as you've seen, influence can affect many things in the game, including how many cards you can draw, how many of your figures you can move, how many production tokens you can sell. There's many different ways that you can increase your influence, and you can find them located on your player mat. These are various tasks you may do at any time when the condition applies, even outside of your own turn, but you may never complete the same task more than once during a single game. After completing a task, simply move your influence token 1 space forward. Also, your influence can never be decreased, even if the conditions that allowed you to increase your influence somehow change later in the game. The game ends at the end of any round during which a player went to collect renown tokens and there were none left. Players should then manually keep track of any renown tokens they would have been owed and then add that to the total renown points that they have collected. Players will also get 1 additional Renown point for every black market card they have, either in their hand, or in their draw pile, or discard pile. As a reminder, the black market cards show a value of 1 Renown point on them here. After adding up all of these points, the player with the most Renown is the winner. So over the course of the game, you will be challenged to make decisions about which gang members to recruit and what black market cards to add to your deck. You will also be wise to develop tiles, not just for the Renown points, but also for the special abilities and potential income they will provide you with to help fuel your gang, enabling you to grow and expand further. Tiles will of course have to be controlled, and this will mean deploying your gangs tactically to hold key positions. And of course, all of this will require efficient collection of Renown tokens to ensure you have the most by game's end. This video is designed to teach you everything you need to know to play City of Remnants, but in case anything's still unclear, you can always refer to the game manual, and on the back they've included a handy index to make it very easy to find what you're looking for. But for now, gather your gang, collect some gear, and have fun playing.